We are continuing with linear algebra, and today we are going to be substituting values into an equation to plot points on a line. You should know what coordinates are, how to plot them, and how to substitute into an equation before you go any further. So if we're given an equation, for example y equals 3x plus 2, what I would need to do is substitute each point into my x value, which is my input, to get what the output is. Y is the output. So I would suggest you choose values that are quite small for x. You can choose any values. They are your input values. And most of the time we've given a coordinate plane which has got points that are starting from 0, so you're obviously going to want to start from smaller numbers. You could even just start putting 0 in if you're not confident with your negative numbers. So in my first line, I've already got the value shown. I've taken -1 and I have put -1 into my equation. Wherever I saw a x, I put in -1. So I had 3 times -1 plus 2, which is down there, and it equals -1. And you can see I've written the coordinate pair. My y input, my x was -1, my y is -1, so that gives me the point -1, -1. Next, I am going to substitute in 0. So that means wherever I see a x, I'm going to put a 0. So y equals 3 times x is 0. That means multiply. If you have your x, 3 over next to the x is, and plus 2. So 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. So my coordinate pair at that point is 0, 2. I'm going to do the next one. If I'm putting 1 in, it'll be 3 times 1 plus 2, and that's going to give me 3 plus 2 is 5. So I have the coordinate pair where x is 1, my output or my y value is going to be 5. I'll give you a little minute to think about the next one. What are you going to do? Good. We're going to say 3 times 2 plus 2, and 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So it'll be the points 2, 8. Now what I'm going to do is put each of those onto my Cartesian plane. So where I see a -1 for my x, I'm going to go down to -1. And I'm going to draw that on there. And where I see a 0, I'm going to put a 2. So where x is 0, I'm going to put a 2. Where x is 1, I'm going to put a 5. And where x is 2, I'm going to put a 8. Now, I could have chosen some values that were in between. I could have chosen an x equals a half, and I could have substituted that in, and I would have found an answer somewhere around there, in line with all of those. Can you see that they all form a straight line? Well, anytime that you have this kind of graph, you can actually join those points. So I'm just going to insert my line over here so that I now have y equals, what was my equation? 3x plus 2, y equals 3x plus 2. So I've joined all those points and I have a lovely straight line. Now don't just join the points and stop. Can you see I've gone all the way through and carried on going so that it shows the graph on the whole thing. And that is how you plot points given an equation.